Hey guys, what's going on? Steve, back again, and I'm back with another What If Walking Dead video by George Drake. And the topic for today's video is, what if Glenn survived? If Glenn lived in The Walking Dead Season 11, Rick Grimes returns. So I'm guessing, going all the way back to the lineup, Abraham still dies. I'm guessing Daryl doesn't have his outburst and punches Negan in the face, which of course in return causes Negan to kill Glenn. But with Glenn surviving, I'm guessing Maggie never leaves. Or I don't know, maybe she still would. I don't know, maybe she'd make an excuse like, no, I have to do this. I can learn so much and in return, help our communities and stuff like that. I don't know. That one I'm kind of torn on, because maybe she'd go, maybe she wouldn't. If she doesn't go, then we probably wouldn't have the Reapers, because the Reapers pretty much followed Maggie back, so probably wouldn't have them. The hostility probably between Maggie and Negan wouldn't be there. I want to say maybe Glenn and Negan would have some interesting interactions. I don't know. Glenn was always a very, kind person. So I don't know if he'd maybe, I don't know if he'd go and talk to Negan in the cell, kind of like the way, him and Judith did. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe baby Herschel wouldn't have been taken, because Glenn would still be alive to watch him, or vice versa. Maggie would be there to watch baby Herschel. I don't know. I'm just completely guessing here. So I'm very curious to see how it would have played out had Glenn survived. So before we get into the video, side note, I am working on trying to re-upload all my The Ones Who Live reaction videos back up, because all but the first and second episode got claimed all at the same time, which is very interesting, because some of those videos have been up for 2, 3, 4 weeks perfectly fine, no issues, until recently. So I'm working on trying to bring all those videos back up. Here, I'll take you on a little, let's go behind the scenes. I'll give you a little behind the scenes tour here. So we'll go into my videos here. So the Creator Studio. So here is all my videos I've uploaded. And as you can see, here is The Ones Who Live, Season 1, Episode 6. They've blocked the video, copyright. I disputed it. They rejected my dispute. I uploaded again. Once again, they blocked it. I uploaded a third time, and as you can see right now, the video is still live. No issues. But now when I go in, I have no idea who this is that's even claiming it. Shop AMC, I have no idea who or what that is. Because YouTube doesn't tell me anything. I mean, this could be a scam artist for all I know. Who knows? You can see, what's kind of funny is it says this little part right here is the part that, is the copyright part, but it's kind of funny. If you go in, try to just trim out a little bit of that segment. No. Everything in blue here is everything they've claimed. So 7 minutes, 32 seconds to 12 minutes. 12 minutes and 51 seconds to 17:44. 18 minutes and 21 seconds to 19 minutes and 58 seconds. Yeah, all the way down. So basically, my video will go from 39 minutes and 51 seconds, that includes my intro, my outro, and review, down to 21 minutes and 42 seconds. So basically, the video would just be starting with, Michonne inside of Jadis's room, the Echelon briefing, the famous elevator ride with the bombs, Major Beale's body and stuff like that. Yeah, no explosion. Oh, and a hug. Yeah. So we go from Thorn here. Yep. To the ending. That's it. So I get what? 7 minutes, 33 seconds to 10 minutes, 55 seconds. Like 3 minutes of actual footage. You know? Invading on fair use. You know? Because I have fair use. Because the video has been transformed, edited. Which is why I always try to talk in every single segment, because there is commentary, you know. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of curious, how the hell do, you know, other YouTubers like do this for a living? They'll react to like TV shows, movies and stuff like that and do it for a living. Like, how do you do that and not run into, you know, all these problems of claims and copyrights and being blocked and stuff like that? Like, how do you do it? Because I figure movies would be much harder than TV shows. I've done trailer reaction videos and gotten claimed on a trailer, like a 2-3 minute trailer. So I don't know how they do it with you know, with movies and stuff like that. Yep. Here's episode 5. Yep. 9 minutes, 11 seconds, all the way up to 14 minutes and 8 seconds. So that's, you know, like 5 minutes of footage, just boom, gone. Yeah, intro, outro, 37 minutes down to 22 minutes. So that's like, what, 15 minutes of footage just, you know, needs to be removed. So I'm not sure what I got to do to fix this. What am I doing wrong? What can I do differently? Because it seems like everybody else is doing it and not having any problems except for me. So I don't know. Yeah, episode 4, for some reason they didn't block that, so you can still see episode 4. Episode 3, once again, blocked, so you can't see that one. You can't see my episode 5 or 6, except for the new one I just re-uploaded. Episode 1 and 2 is fine, which is strange. But yeah, this video here was up March 11th, March 18th, and those were fine all the way up until recently. So I don't know, I'm going to have to think of something, I don't know, something else to do. Maybe you guys know, who is this Shop AMC? What can I do differently? You know, because I mean, technically I am under fair use. You know, the video has been transformed. There is commentary. The video's been edited. So I am under fair use, you know, which is why I transform the video, which is why sometimes you see the video also very faint, because, you know, I dim it down like this, you know, so you can barely see it, you know. So I don't know if you guys know any tips or tricks, or who the hell this Shop AMC is, because YouTube's not going to tell me. I mean, they ain't going to tell me shit. Yeah, it'd be great to know, because, like I said, I'm curious, how are other YouTubers doing this for like a living? I don't know. So, anyways, yeah, I'm working on trying to bring those videos back up and stuff like that, so we'll see. If not, I don't know. Maybe I'll start just posting the videos on Patreon or something like that. Put it behind like a small paywall, $3 or something, you know, something like that, and do a workaround of YouTube, use like Dropbox or something like that to upload it. I don't know. I'll see, because it's kind of a pain, because now if I re-upload the video's all the way at the bottom, and, you know, I'm sure interest on the ones who live, the final episode is probably done. You know, people were probably going crazy once the episode ended, but now it's been, you know, what, 2 weeks or something like that? Not that much interest left, so I don't know. All right, so anyways, that's enough talking for me. Let's jump into the video.
Maggie says she loves me.
Hey, this is a good thing.
Oh my God, look at young
we don't
Rick.
get enough of these days. Enjoy. And when we get back, return the favor. It's not like she's going anywhere.
Oh. Oh, what a transformation that was. That was some really good editing.
One of my favourite episodes of
I like that
TV
editing.
is The Walking Dead Season 7 Episode 1. After a nearly 7-month-long cliffhanger, the show returned to reveal what would happen in the adaptation of that iconic comic scene. It will of course be revealed that the first to go was Abraham. Then after Daryl lashes out at Negan, he would take out Glenn. By far the most shocking, sad and impactful fate I've seen in a show. At the time, I thought 701 was perfect. So well done. After such an
it
episode,
was a really good
the show
episode.
was changed forever, and what you had to look forward to from that is all that would happen during Negan's reign, and the group coming back from it. Rick would go on and beat Negan, and Maggie would go on and live for Glenn, and of course have Herschel. But over the years, actually witnessing what has come of that, no, I don't like it. Glenn getting his comic death was perhaps the most sensible thing to do, but the reality of the story in The Walking
it was an
Dead,
iconic moment in the
watching
comics,
it with this
so-
happening, Maggie didn't become some naturally strong legacy holder of Glenn, but she's made in such a way that she's unaware and unlikable. She became much worse, and I don't like Herschel, and I'm not going to like him just because he's Glenn's son. I'd rather watch a world where instead of Maggie and Herschel, it was Glenn, and it just makes me think, what if it could be? In this video, we're going to be answering the question of what if Glenn didn't die. Let's get straight into it, of course. Before we do, make sure you press the like button and make sure you subscribe if you're new. So, we need to save Glenn from this scene. To do this, we still have to play by Negan's rules and the show's rules. Negan, not knowing that Maggie is pregnant, chooses to kill Maggie. The nights before 701 actually aired, a supposed leak of the cliffhanger reveal was all over. And
I remember
show
this.
Maggie dying. It said that each of the characters had their scenes filmed to avoid the leak. Many suggesting this was an intentional leak, so that people didn't know what actually happened. This helps.
Yeah, I remember seeing that leak come out, and everybody was going crazy. I think it was like the day before the episode was about to air, or maybe even a few hours before the episode was about to air. Yep, she gets hit. Yep. She spits at him.
Look at that! Taking it like a champ!
Yeah.
In that episode before where Glenn does jump in, where Negan jokingly swings at Maggie, you actually saw that Abraham was ready to get involved. That's something that stands out to me as weird about that allegedly purposefully leaked scene, is that Abraham is just there. Again, he knows that he can't move, but he couldn't just sit and watch it even if he dies. He was the biggest and strongest there. Although Negan has unfortunately struck fatal blows into Maggie, Abraham charges into him and attempts to strangle Negan. And nearly does it, but to no avail.
Okay, so we're
Dwight
swapping
and the other saviors pull him away to prove that even the strongest
Glenn
and
for
the
Maggie,
bravest
so
of them
Maggie's
can't
dying.
beat Negan. He chooses Abraham as his second victim. At the end of the episode, broken by let alone the loss of the strongest guy he's ever met, but Maggie.
Oh, God.
Okay, so we're replacing Glenn for Maggie. Interesting. Okay.
Bet you thought you were all gonna grow old together. Sitting around the table at Sunday dinner in the happily ever after.
I thought we were just going with the one death being Abraham, and Daryl wasn't going to have an outburst, and that was going to be the end of it.
Glenn lived for Maggie. It's interesting because when Laurie died, Rick went into this similar episode, and it was Glenn that at first went into the prison to try and retrieve him, but Rick was completely out of it. He pushed Glenn away like he didn't even know him. Here, poetically, Rick tries to do the same, but Glenn isn't Glenn anymore. He punches Rick like Maggie did in the comics. After Glenn died, he screams at Rick. Why did you
the
bring
roles
her
would be
here?
reversed.
They all go back to Alexandria. No one goes to Hilltop. There's no need to now.
Let me put this to all of you as clearly as I can. I'm not in charge anymore. Negan is.
They discuss and argue that Glenn can't be here when Negan visits, not because they don't know what he'll do, but because they do know. With Enid and Glenn being close the season
So
before,
Glenn
she
would come a little
volunteers to take Glenn to
unhinged.
Hilltop, and Sasha volunteers to join her. She doesn't want to stay at Alexandria because she sees Abraham everywhere. Negan knows that his biggest threat right now is that angry widower. He knows that he was one of the people who tried to interrupt the lineup. He thinks maybe he should have considered killing him. When Negan does arrive earlier than expected, he asks where the widower is. Rick and Daryl don't say anything until Gabriel steps in and reveals that Glenn unalived himself a few days after Maggie's fate. Glenn,
Oh.
Enid and Sasha arrive at Hilltop. Now they brought him here in hopes to have him rehabilitate, but he spends most of his days training.
Interesting.
He doesn't talk anymore. He's just clearly dead set on not just beating the Saviours, but killing Negan. Because of this, he's largely kept out of the group's schemes. Daryl goes to Hilltop and
So they keep Glenn
eventually
away.
opens up about how sorry he is. Now obviously in this universe we're creating, he didn't punch Negan to cause
Right.
him killing anyone.
Right.
But he was the reason Glenn was even out there to see it. Daryl tries to take the blame, but Glenn says it wasn't his fault. At least he was even out there. Even after all the convincing that Sasha did to try and get Glenn to stand down, he catches her leaving. He knows she's heading to the sanctuary, so he joins her. It's here we start to hear more of the Glenn that we all know. They reminisce and even talk about college and how he used to love working at his dad's car store with his sisters. How even though it was part of the work experience program and wasn't being paid, it was his dream to work with cars.
Young Glenn.
The registration, the window sticker, the receipt. Oh, and make sure you talk to the general manager. His name is Glenn.
He says that is partly why he loved being a pizza delivery driver.
Breaking
so
Bad and
much.
Walking
He was
Dead.
always driving.
They're connected.
They eventually get to the sanctuary. Sasha jumps over the fence, but doesn't let Glenn come over too.
Go. It's not your time.
Glenn had just opened up about how he loved cars. Sasha says, drive. Glenn goes on to see this as Sasha telling him there's so much more for him to do. She's lost Bob, Tyrese, now Abraham. She would go on to succumb to chasing vengeance and kicking off the war. But it's here that Glenn saw a future. Maybe he doesn't have to dig 2 graves and go after Negan. He just needs to stay calm and everything will be okay.
Stick to the plan. Don't engage.
I like all the footage he's using from the other movie he was in. Was it a movie or TV show?
And then something happened.
Glenn snaps.
Where you at?
Okay, this is some really good editing.
Show your fucking face!
This is some really good editing. This is good. This is good.
Someone pegged him good. Looked like just one guy from what I could tell.
That's right, it's Glenn.
Got you, mother.
Oh.
There's so much in Season 8 that I think Glenn would have benefited from and developed way more than Maggie. He definitely still had business in the show.
I know you. Just like before.
Oh.
Negan killed his pregnant wife.
Put the gun down and let's think this through.
Oh.
You've got that scene with Rick and Morgan at the bar where they were captured by Saviours, said they would help them, but then killed them all. Imagine Glenn there. A character like Glenn who was always against that, always wanted to do what's right.
Run, we can get by him.
We gotta let those people out. That's still who we are.
Yeah.
And
Glenn
it
was
makes
the
so
voice
much
of
sense
reason.
because when he invaded one of the Savior outposts, that was his first kill, and that was right at the end of season 6. So we hadn't seen a Glenn that had killed for that long. So it makes sense that that would be the start of it. And then in this scene, where Glenn's just lost Maggie, Rick has just lost Carl, which I think he still would, by the way. Even if Glenn had killed Negan ages ago, like, that would still have happened because he was helping Sadiq. There's actually very few possible scenarios where Carl wouldn't be out in those woods with Sadiq. In fact, Glenn running around chasing vengeance would just make Carl want to help other people even more. It would have been amazing to
true.
see these 3 season 1 characters just turn into that. They'd all lost people, and this was the furthest they've ever gone in losing their humanity. And when they kill these saviors, he'd look in the mirror and just see a different Glenn, as the viewers have. And I think that's so much more interesting than anything Maggie has done since. He would rethink killing altogether. Like, maybe he won't kill Negan.
That would be interesting.
I lied.
Odd.
And it's Carl's letter to Glenn that would give him that similar sort of influence that it had on Rick. Still wanting to
Ooh.
kill Negan, but it's the only thing stopping him from not doing that.
Is it about me? Well, it's not what we thought it was.
Interesting. Carl's letter might
Hilltop
have changed him.
is bigger.
In the season 8 finale, Rick beats but spares Negan, and Glenn, while obviously disappointed, isn't as audible about it as you might think. Something doesn't seem right about him.
Rick was right about not killing all the saviors. Not about Negan. Rick was wrong to do what he did.
Oh,
Michelle, too.
I just see like this
We're about our time.
movie that he's in, because this looks intense. Whatever
4
this
months
is.
into Negan being in his cell, Glenn breaks in and kills Negan.
Oh,
She just gave up the keys, huh?
Negotiations have ended.
damn. Glenn becoming bloodthirsty. But then there'd be repercussions with the Whisper War,
What was for nothing? Every person who died for nothing.
because now Negan's dead, and he doesn't kill Alpha.
Yeah. You keep telling yourself that, Rick.
1 year after Glenn killed Negan, Glenn paints. He's painted pictures of what his family would look like if they were still here, and he puts them in his Hilltop headquarters. And he still doesn't live back at Alexandria. He can't bear to go back there, so he lives at
So he lives in Hilltop.
He also still doesn't feel any better. Painting helps, but killing Negan didn't do much for him. He almost feels more empty, as there's nothing left to hate, or to blame his constant hurt on. Now, Glenn isn't on great terms with Rick. Rick wanted to kill Negan too, but the whole reason he didn't, what it was all for, was for Carl, and now he feels like they all got their own way, but he didn't, and it was all for nothing. Now you might be thinking, if Negan's already dead, then surely he wouldn't end up in that herd to get injured and then taken, and that's true. I mean, in an alternate universe, which is what we're talking about, you could just
Right.
say Andrew Lincoln still wanted to leave, and they would just find another way to do it.
There ain't no
Yeah, I
other way.
guess so.
We're not destroying the bridge.
But for the sake of this what if, let's actually just be really strict to the story and say that no, Rick wouldn't leave if Glenn survived, because he wouldn't be in that situation. But I'll let that part be your teaser for my what if Rick stayed video. So we're not going to go into too much detail about Rick now. What's amazing about Rick not leaving and Maggie being dead, apart from for obvious reasons, is we don't need a 6-year time jump. So Daryl wouldn't be out there looking for anyone for years. Leah
That's
doesn't need
true.
to exist.
Yeah.
And nor does that horrible Reaper storyline. That's all gone. I've shat on it. So what would Glenn be like in the Whisperer story arc? What would his place
Ooh.
be? Well, with
Yeah.
Glenn residing at Hilltop, I think he'd be heavily involved with Lydia and Henry. What better character to peel back than Glenn, who lost his kid, who never even got to have that family with Maggie. Now he
Right.
makes this Whisperer
Herschel's
girl the
gone.
enemy. At first he's all hardened and horrible to her, but over over time becomes the protector. Daryl can be there to scold Henry, but I think Glenn and Lydia, it makes a lot of sense with him and Enid. Perhaps even taking some of Rick's comic storyline, as Daryl heavily did. This would be the opportunity to have Daryl even step back a bit, have Glenn be somewhat of a leader, which he never really got to be. When that trade fair happened, it was Michonne that really didn't want it to happen for obvious reasons, with not really being safe. Glenn, as war-torn as he is now in the show, would be one of them that didn't really want that to happen either. In that scene where the Whisperers capture the main characters, you know, you've got Yumiko there for some reason. I've actually always thought that Magna was meant to die on the Pikes because she was there. It actually feels like it was taken out last minute for her to be there randomly. Oh no, these people
really?
are known 10 minutes. Oh. I mean, of course you'd have that reaction to, you know, seeing these people's heads on the Pikes, but it is a bit weird that she was there. This would be Glenn. She could pick anyone to take up onto that cliff edge to show the herd. Maybe she chooses Glenn as she sees he's the most honest one. So Glenn is there and he's massively affected by the Pikes. Of course, Henry is up there, so he's sad for Carol, but also Enid. So Glenn already has a motive in the Whisperer arc. I think he'd be right up there with Carol supporting her as she chases vengeance. A massive difference to him in late season 6, where he was actively convincing Daryl not to do that. He would be the one to help kill Alpha. There wouldn't be a character being secretly assigned. Now, even with characters like Carol pursuing Alpha to end all of it, we can't ignore the very important scenes that would happen before that. Rick would go into that camp and try to talk to them.
No waiting, you keep going.
I'm going with you. You can't do this on your own.
Glenn, I can do this.
Remember, this is the Rick that has been trying to maintain all of the community, so of course, he'd be straight into that Whisperer camp by himself to try and make peace, to try and make it work. He doesn't want war, he doesn't want a repeat of what happened with Negan, especially after Carol and Daryl, in that first episode of season 10, crossed Alpha's border. Rick would have to go and do that. When thinking of Rick, it's easy to think of him being crazy and angry and, you know, killing all of them, but no, not this Rick.
And then having to deal with Beta.
We almost saw that Rick go into retirement. That's what the end of season 8 did. It was closure to that part of Rick's life. He now tries living peacefully for Carl, unless he needs to be otherwise. Especially with Negan dead, Rick would take it onto himself to make sure he can do what Carl wanted. That's where Rick's character was going to. It's here we'd see Glenn and Rick still caring about each other, even though Rick still thinks Glenn obviously overstepped.
They'd still be at odds with
Glenn
each other.
wants to go in there with him, but at this point, this version of Glenn is the last thing Rick wants in there with him when he's going to talk to the Whisperers about peace. Now again, because Rick didn't leave, Michonne didn't either. That was such a massive part of season 10, but the whole Virgil thing wouldn't need to happen. So yeah, Virgil wouldn't exist. And by the end of the main show, he didn't exist either, so we can forget about him altogether. And it's all of this that, in fact, makes the Commonwealth story arc come that much sooner. Now, when I think of season 11, above the Commonwealth stuff was also the confirmation of the variants. Season 11, episode 19, where they basically said, you know, the zombies in season 1 and a bit of season 2, they moved a bit faster, picked things up and climbed. That wasn't just a change in directing, that was canon. So would they still do that, or feel like they need to do that with Rick still in the show? I don't think the spin-offs would still happen, but would they really show different types of zombies? I think eventually, yeah. That Elijah character would not exist if Maggie was already dead or just wasn't there anymore. Some NPC created for Maggie. You've got to stop it. But Glenn being there would be better than all of it. Aaron said he only heard stories of walkers being more capable, but Glenn, he was there.
Yeah,
he actually
he
saw
would
the
remember.
zombies were doing all of that. So instead of them reacting like it's something brand new, we'd see through Glenn what the situation really was. A reminder, the return.
Because I remember,
like
I was there. I saw them
one character react
do this
and
stuff.
Recall it. I think beats any contrived appearance of them that happened in season 11. Lydia became so useless that they got rid of an arm just to do something. So if Glenn was still in the show, there wouldn't be an Elijah and Lydia wouldn't be useless. In this scene, it would be Glenn there. I think everything Glenn's been through in the show now is, of all things, he'd be stubborn. So he'd be right there in Maggie's place when Daryl and Lance confront them. Not that we can put Glenn in Maggie's shoes, but I just think that's where he would be. With this more impulsive Glenn, I think it does open doors to stuff like Dwight's comic death. Dwight had just lost Sherry, and and this was him trying to kill Pamela, trying to cut the snake's head off and end the corruption altogether. With Rick and Michonne there, it would be a much more fulfilling Commonwealth arc. So I can actually see Dwight's comic there for something that Glenn could have gotten. But I think we have to be realistic about it. We have to look at who Glenn is now in this timeline, and we have to look at how Glenn was from season 1 to 7 to really get to the bottom of what his ending would be. Again, there's no spin-offs. If Rick and Michonne were still in the show, if Glenn was still there, Maggie's dead, Negan's dead, where would Glenn end up? Going into the Commonwealth story arc, they all entered this time where they could be more comfortable. They don't have to be so on edge. By the end of the main show, they did all live pretty normal lives. And at that table at the end, Glenn would be there. They would have gotten rid of all of the corruption in the Commonwealth and taken ownership of it. And so from there, they can do what they had always wanted to do. And I think Glenn would still be haunted by Maggie. You know, he's stuck in this place where he sees her everywhere. He's staying at Hilltop. But I don't think it would fit him for long. So with them all being free to do what they'd always wanted to do, we look back at what Glenn was like in season 1. I think he'd want to leave. He's so haunted by Maggie and what happened to him.
I guess I can see him leaving.
Haunted version of what he was and of what he stood for. So I think
Glenn's
drawing back
spin-off.
to what Sasha told Glenn just before she died, Glenn should just drive. I think the end of Glenn's story is he gets in his car and leaves. It's over.
Maybe we'll get to steal another one someday.
So instead of Daryl driving off at the end, it's Glenn.
So this is what I think would happen if Glenn survived in The Walking Dead, but we'll never know for sure. I prefer Glenn over Maggie. I think Glenn is easily the better character. I think it was sensible what happened. I think it was so good, so well done. I hate to love it, but to me it's because of what followed, what happened after this, you know, everything Maggie's ever done since. Maybe, just maybe, Glenn was meant to go on in a TV show, but at some point it became a bit clear that Glenn was going to die because he was just the supporting character of Maggie. It quickly switched.
He wants to talk to Maggie. You got this.
Where it was like, yeah, Maggie, you go and talk to Gregory. You go and be the leader of Hilltop. So I don't think Maggie will ever die now. Glenn will go down as having one of the most iconic fates in TV history. In the end, it's just a shame what that was a catalyst for. What do you think? Do you think Glenn was always meant to die in that lineup?
Yeah.
Do you think he should have went on? Do you agree with what I've said would happen?
Yeah, I think he was always meant to die, especially with that scene from the comics being such an iconic moment.
Again, with a Tales of the Walking Dead episode for Glenn set before the apocalypse being an actual idea that's been brought up. Let me know what you think down below. Press the like button on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.
Okay, so there we go. What if Glenn survived? If Glenn lived in The Walking Dead season 11? Wow. So I was not expecting him to swap Glenn for Maggie. Maggie being the one, you know, taking the hit and stuff like that. Yeah, that definitely changed things up quite a bit. Glenn becoming just a savage out for revenge and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, it would have been very interesting to see. You know, a lot of characters would have disappeared. You know, Elijah, the Whisperers, Leah. None of those characters would have been around. Yeah, it would have been a very interesting. Just a very interesting story, you know, still having, you know, Glenn alive and stuff like that, and him going out for revenge, and, you know, maybe him doing the car chase scene against Negan. Where I go with that? And then him killing Negan in his cell. Yeah. And then, of course, that would change the Whisperer War, because Negan's not alive to go and, you know, kill Alpha, so I'd have to find another another way to do it and stuff like that. Yeah, these what ifs are always so cool, just to be, you know, in a different timeline and stuff like that, and how things would have played out. I think this would have been very interesting. You know, this crazy Savage Glenn stuff like that. Plus those edits were actually really good. I don't know what you know, what movie or show these clips are from, but yeah, that's some really good editing from whatever it's from. Yeah, the whispers would be different, and then having, you know, Rick and Michonne still there. Yeah, the heads on pikes would have been a little bit different and stuff like that, and him reacting to Enid and stuff. Oof. Yeah, it would have been a very interesting timeline. You know, sometimes doing these, it's like, man, I kind of want to see that timeline play out instead of what we got. You know what I mean? Because it's like sometimes, like, the alternate timelines just sound a little bit cooler. You know what I mean? Because I think it would be cool, like in this scene here with the variant walkers and stuff like that. You know, well, I've heard about, you know, walkers doing this stuff. You know, and having Glenn actually be there to be like, yeah, I know. I've seen them many years ago when me and Rick were in Atlanta and stuff like that. We saw them, you know, picking up stuff and climbing fences and stuff like that. You know, being there to be like, yeah, this stuff's real. You know, they're real. So yeah, it'd just be so interesting. And then if that is true, if you know, his final thing was him just driving off and stuff like that, you know, instead of it being Daryl, which you know, Daryl's supposedly going to look for Rick and stuff like that, but Rick's still there, so there's no reason for, well, it'd be a lot of different things. You know, there's no reason for the Rick and Michonne spinoff. There'd be no reason for the Daryl spinoff. There'd be no reason for Dead City. All the spinoffs would just be, you know, there's no reason for any spin-offs because, you know, there's no Baby Herschel, so Baby Herschel wouldn't be taken. What is it, the Croat? There's no point for him, you know, and Negan's dead, so there's kind of the revenge right there. There's no reason for that, you know. Daryl doesn't need to go look for Rick, so no reason for him to go to France, and yeah, nothing at all for, you know, Rick and Michonne spinoff, because he never left. Although it would be interesting to see what would happen to with the CRM storyline in this timeline, because now they don't have Rick, so then Michonne doesn't have to leave to go find Rick, and neither would Daryl. Where would the CRM storyline have gone? That would be interesting. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Would be very interesting, but yeah, that'd be a very interesting timeline had Glenn lived, and to see a more savage, brutal Glenn haunted by, you know, the past of Maggie and stuff like that. Would be interesting. So anyways, there we go. There's the video. I always love these type of videos to just see what an alternate universe would have been like, you know, had one thing changed, you know, had this person lived, what if this person died, what if this person did this instead, then everything changes. You know, it's always fun. So anyways, other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. That'd be awesome. Remember, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on social media. Links in the description box below. And of course, leave me all your thoughts and comments. What did you guys think about the video? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What do you think about this timeline here? Do you kind of wish Glenn had lived? Or do you wish Glenn still died and, you know, had his, you know, iconic comic book moment? You know, let me know. Yeah, just let me know. Would you have rather had Glenn live or Glenn die? Which timeline would you like to have followed? Let me know. And other than that, yeah, like I said, if you guys know anything about, you know, the copyright stuff and anything I can do to, you know, change it and how to work around it. Because like I said, there's other YouTubers that are doing like stuff like this like full time, you know, and I don't know how they're doing it without getting claimed. So I don't know what they're doing differently than I am. If you guys know anything, let me know. You know, love to hear it. So, but yeah, other than that, yeah, just stick around. More videos are on the way, and I will see you guys next time.